It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is CarEdge Live for Monday, June 30th, with your hosts, me, Ray, and, well, that rather good-looking young man, Zach. How are you doing today, handsome?
Doing well. All right, so here's the deal for today's show, folks. Happy Monday. Thanks for tuning in. So we're going to spend about 10-15 minutes on car market stuff. We've got Japanese automakers are in trouble and they know it. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. And Nissan, especially. I know people get sick of hearing about Nissan, but oh my God, they are liquidating assets and things like that to try and get cash. So we have to talk about it. So we're going to spend 10-15 minutes on that. We need to thank the sponsor of today's show, Delete Me. So we're going to do that in there as well. And then today is the 8th year anniversary of my mom, my dad's wife, Suzanne, her passing. So we're going to spend time on that. My dad wrote a really sweet note that I think is so beautiful, and we need to share it here with our community. So we're going to spend time on that. So that's the lay of the land for today's show. If you're disinterested in the emotional, mushy-gushy stuff, stick with us for 10-15 minutes for the car talk, and we won't be offended if you leave. Sound like a plan, Pops?
I'm in. Yeah. I think hopefully I can handle that. Yeah.
I hope I can handle it too, but you know what? It's worth a shot. I think your message and what you wrote is worth sharing. Before we dive in too much further, though, CarEdge.com. It's been almost 6 years of my dad and I building this business together. If we can help you out with anything, check it out. CarEdge.com. Car buying without the headache. All sorts of resources and valuable information back at CarEdge.com. Do me a favor, check it out. Now, the big story this morning, Dad, over the weekend is in automotive news, and the headline reads, Trump dings Mr. Japan on auto trade as tariff deadline nears. Now, for those of you who have been keeping score at home, tariffs for most things, like the individual country tariffs, have been postponed until July 7th. Well, it's June 30th, and July 7th is right around the corner. There was a 25% increase in automotive tariffs that took the tariff on imported automobiles to 27.5%. However, these reciprocal tariffs, as our current administration has described them, they are going in effect on July 7th, and some trade deals have already been made with China, for example, and some of these other countries. But Japan, Dad, is one of the countries where we do not have a trade deal, and they are pushing very hard on the U.S. government to try and make sure that their autos are not tariffed. However, the U.S. government has said, we are going to tariff your automobiles. That's going to happen on July 7th. I find this to be fascinating, and all these Japanese automakers seem to be getting concerned big time right now.
Well, my guess is they were concerned back in April. And like any negotiation, nothing really happens till like you're up against the time constraints that have been set. Whenever you have contract negotiations, the best and final proposals don't happen until minutes before or minutes after the deadline for a settlement. So it doesn't surprise me that there's this sort of back and forth between the United States and Japan and the United States and Canada and whatever other countries out there, trying to eventually hammer out what each side might consider to be a fair and equitable deal.
And I just want to call out July 9th. Sorry, I don't know why I said July 7th. It's July 9th that those reciprocal tariffs go into effect. Dad, as a result of the potential threat of these increased reciprocal tariffs, Japanese automakers have been increasing their exports here to the United States in the months leading up to it. So this is what's fascinating is we've actually looked at data that shows that the number of vehicles shipped on cargo containers from Europe and from Asia have declined. However, that decline must be more from Europe than from Asia, because this data that Automotive News has shared shows that Toyota and Honda have actually materially increased. I think it was a 3% overall increase, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, industry-wide, the 6 big Japanese players, they increased, their combined exports by 3% just in the month of May, and 3% for the first 5 months of this year. So these Japanese automakers, Dad, actually pushed the pedal to the floor, trying to accelerate production and bring vehicles into the United States in anticipation of this July 9th drop dead date. And maybe it was more of those European automakers who have cut back on bringing inventory into the United States. I'm thinking brands like BMW right now that have a relatively low market day supply, for example.
I think everybody is trying to play it as conservatively as they possibly can. It is virtually impossible to really know what's going to happen. so that in a situation where there doesn't seem to be any real clarity, I don't know how any. I mean, we know. Let me change this to a degree.
Hmm.
We know that inventory levels in the United States of new cars has dropped to about 2.5 million,
Yep.
from about 3 million like 3 months ago.
Yep.
So that indicates to me that nobody really knows what the hell is about to happen. And because they don't know what the hell's about to happen, um, they're playing it as conservatively as they possibly can until there is greater clarity. Now,
I would
whether or not
question
we'll
that
see
though.
that, I have no idea.
I would question that though, Deb, because these Japanese automakers, the six major Japanese automakers, have increased their exports to the United States. And even though they've done that, they are some of the brands that have the lowest days supply of inventory. For example, Toyota with a sub 30 days supply of inventory. So these are the brands that actually stand to have the biggest impact in terms of their bottom line because they're already low on inventory. Toyota could be materially screwed if after July 9th they stop importing vehicles because they don't want to pay whatever the reciprocal tariff amount is, even if that lasts just a month. Think about that, Dad. What is the days supply of Toyota? It's 30 days. You go 30 days without importing Toyota vehicles to the United States, you're going to have a chip shortage 2.0.
Well, I think what it indicates to me is that they wanted to get as many vehicles into the country prior to July 9th as they
Absolutely.
possibly could. Okay. And there's only so much they can increase production in order to make that happen. So what happens after July 9th, even if there is no tariff agreement and the tariffs get greater, well then it means to them that it's going to cost them more to import cars. So they're just trying to mitigate whatever future costs might be by getting as many vehicles in prior to July 9th.
Totally, Dad. But I want to pull up on the screen. I want to look at this all together. They tried. Not all these Asian brands or not all these
Yeah.
Japanese brands, but many of them tried to import more vehicles before this July 9th deadline. And with good reason. If you're Toyota, Lexus, or Subaru, you have a low days supply of inventory. That's what this chart is showing you. It's how
Yes.
many days worth of inventory they have based on current sales rates. And I just want to reiterate that if Toyota goes a month without taking delivery of new vehicles, they are going to run out of vehicles on the ground. That is what this data tells us. 29 days supply. Well, last time I checked, how many days are in the month of July?
31, I think.
I think it's 31. I mean,
Yeah.
so you're at negative 2 days supply. Okay, so I just want to really hammer home here that I think these Japanese automakers, why else would we have seen a material increase, a 3% increase in the number of vehicles that they're bringing into the United States? And unfortunately, Dad, this data is not broken out specifically by automaker. I'm
Mhm.
fairly certain Mitsubishi, for example, one of the brands on this list that actually has an oversupply of inventory. You can see Mitsubishi over here with a 94-day supply, or Mazda with a 107-day supply. Those are some of the brands that I imagine weren't increasing their exports to the United States as much as maybe a Toyota, a Lexus, or obviously a Subaru were over the past few months.
Well, yeah, you would think not with their inventory increasing, but you also have to consider that I think everybody had an expectation that there would be some pull ahead sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in many cases, the pull ahead sales were much greater than what they had anticipated. So, um, the reason Lexus and Toyota inventory is still so low is because they had tremendous sales in April and May.
Yeah.
Um, we
Well, they've
also
also been low on inventory for years now.
Yes, but I was going to say, and we also know that June has been a bit of a struggle, even for many Lexus and Toyota dealers.
This is
So
true.
I think with the slowdown in sales that we're seeing in June, and the anticipated continued slowdown in sales in July and August, um, perhaps if there is no tariff agreement, or trade agreement, that they won't have to be importing as many cars in the future as they normally would have.
Now, Dad, you're talking about trade or tariff agreement. One thing you and I have agreement on is the fact that we both use Delete Me. Now, folks,
Yes.
we just got to take a minute here to remind you that data brokers are out there selling your information online and anyone can buy it. I'll put my dad on the spot here in a second. Things like your phone number, social security number, email address, and home address are sold online. They're available to marketers, scammers, and
Everyone in between, whoever they may be.
now, Delete Me, the sponsor of today's program, helps you take control over your data. Delete Me removes your personal information from hundreds of data brokers on your behalf. You're looking at my personal Delete Me dashboard. My dad and I both, every single month, Delete Me's running in the background for us. We get our monthly reports. They're removing our personal information from the internet. Now, Dad, for the CarEdge community, you can get started today with the coupon code CarEdge. You just got to go to joindeleteme.com/CarEdge or click the link in the top of the description down below. And they're adding new data brokers every single month that they're tracking and making sure that they're removing your information from. We thank Delete Me for their continued sponsorship and support of this program. Now, Dad, back to these Japanese automakers for one more moment. We've also seen some price increases already. So I just want to really hammer home potential impacts that go into effect post July 9th. We know Toyota came out and said they're going to increase the prices of their vehicles on average in the 2026 model year by a little over $280. Lexus prices going up $200. Subaru on average prices going up over $1,000. That was all, quite frankly, modest relative to what many of these reports had come out and said they were going to be. Post-tariff pricing of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 price increases. However, that was only the implication of the 25% tariff that went into effect on imported automobiles, not a potential 25% reciprocal tariff on the country of Japan. I'll be very curious and I'll be watching closely what happens to pricing of these vehicles that do get imported if they continue to import vehicles to the United States.
Well, it's there's only so much a manufacturer can eat in the way of tariffs before they have to increase prices and pass the costs of these tariffs on to the ultimate purchaser. So my suspicion is that they'll look at it, the numbers, they'll eat as much of it as they can. As the 26 model year cars come in, we'll probably start seeing a much more significant price increase if there is no trade agreement between the United States and Japan.
We also know that at this time last year, 7% of new cars for sale in the United States were the next model year. So in that case, 2025s. Right now, that number is 3%. So we are seeing a slowdown in the changeover to the next model year. And that is an implication for our community if they're in the market for a new car. There are actually almost as many 2024 new vehicles for sale right now, 187,000, as compared to 222,000 2026s. So you actually have almost as many prior model year, which data, I mean, in June, we would typically expect, like I said, to see 7% of the inventory have turned over by now, but it hasn't. And to your point about automakers eating up the cost of this, what was the number we heard from Mazda? It was going to cost them, what, $100 million a month, I think?
Well, I know Toyota said it was $600 million a month, which is $7.2 billion for the year. Mazda said it was going to cost them like $100 million a month, and that they were going to eat it as long as they can. But let's face it, we're not talking little numbers here. Okay. These are giant ass corporations with giant ass cash flow. Well, some of these corporations have good cash flow. And
good segue into our next piece, by the way.
And so if you have enough cash flow, you can eat it a little longer than others. But it just seems to me that at a certain point, they're in business to make money. They are in business to create greater equity for their stockholders. And how long are the stockholders going to be happy with, okay, so we lost $7.2 billion of potential profit because of we ate the tariff costs. I'm guessing the stockholders are going to say, we want that $7.2 billion back in profits. Let's figure out how we make that happen. So there's only so long they can go. What that drop dead date is for some of these corporations, well, we know for like for instance, with Nissan, it could be yesterday.
So, folks, between now and July 9th, we will keep our pulse on what's going on with these reciprocal tariffs. Again, Japan is the big importer to the United States, aside from European countries, for automobiles. And this is, the headline this morning in Automotive News. It's quite the headline. It is Trump dings Mr. Japan on auto trade as tariff deadline nears. We'll keep you posted. This could have a major impact on the new car market. Now, Dad, you just mentioned Nissan. This was the other headline this morning that we'll cover. Nissan seeks to delay supplier payments to free up cash, company email shows. Now, I want to just really hone in on here, Dad. The new CEO of Nissan, Ivan Espinosa, who took over in April, getting rid of 15% of Nissan's global workforce and trying to bring back $3.4 billion in cost cuts over the next 2 years. So now Nissan, Dad, is reaching out to their suppliers, which they actually did this last year as well around this time, saying, hey, can we please delay our payments to you so that we can have more cash on hand? The saga at Nissan continues. I know our audience doesn't want to hear it all the time, but it's really important to understand that this is a brand that I quite frankly think is on the brink of failure, which, to be clear, the brand will still exist, but maybe owned by a new company, maybe some merger or acquisition. Because if you're doing this, it means you don't have enough money in the bank.
Well, I can explain it in personal terms for you.
Here, please.
Okay. Before you were born, I had a Golf USA franchise in Mesa, Arizona. Okay. And that's when I learned how important cash flow is. When you have cash flow, it's much easier to pay your bills. When you don't have cash flow, it becomes virtually impossible to pay your bills. And so at a certain point, you say to your vendors who you're buying your goods from, hey, I know I'm supposed to pay in 30 days. Can we extend that to 60 days? Now, the thinking behind it when I would ask those questions was, geez, I hope somehow I can eventually come up with the money. Is it just going to drop from heaven? As it turns out, it does not. Okay. if you are in such severe financial cash flow struggles, and your hope is to delay payments because, well, this big pile of cash is just going to drop down from heaven and save your sorry ass, it doesn't happen. Okay. Your sorry ass ends up in bankruptcy court. You apologize to all your vendors and you thank the court for not making you have to pay back all this money. Nissan can spin it however they want to spin it, but there is no giant basket of cash getting ready to drop out of the sky. It's just not there. I waited and waited. I'm still waiting, damn it. And we closed the store in 1994. So, I don't know who's going to own Nissan, but it ain't Nissan.
You are such a funny human being. All right, Dad, let's come to the chat here for a minute. Earlier in the show from T-Boy Irva, Hart Nissan of Springfield, Virginia appears to have gone out of business. 0 cars on the lot. That's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. We've got here from Tavo. Thank you, Tavo. Do you think it's a good idea to buy a new car now or wait and see what happens? From Igor in the chat. If you ever wanted to get 9 to 10% off MSRP plus rebates, now is the time. Dealers will negotiate prices down if you push them. I will come over the top on this, and I will say for many brands, that is exactly what we're seeing. June was very, very, very slow. So if you're in the new car market, I think June and July, the summer slowdown, is a very real and great time to be in the market, and it's worth letting everyone know. Today is the last day of our 20% off CarEdge Insights sale and 20% off our car buying services sale. So take advantage of that. The team may end up extending this through the 4th of July, but you got to take advantage back at CarEdge.com. So you can get your 20% off if you are in the market to buy a car. And from Rich Diana here, Dad, all my cash has done flowed. And finally, from Matthew, appreciate you, Matthew, the kind contribution. Congratulations, Matthew. You won your, a 2K swim over the weekend. By the way, there was a portly 70-year-old woman dominating the senior non-wetsuit category. Plenty of room for Pops to make a splash. The next race is in August. What do you say, Dad?
When I was in day camp at Camp Cherrydale in Cheney, Pennsylvania, and I had a fear of swimming, and they insisted that I get in the pool in the deep end where they threw me, and I kept bobbing up and down. It finally took a fellow camper to say, "This son of a bitch is drowning," and he jumped in and he saved me. So the concept of me getting into water and swimming any distance at all, say beyond 10 feet, is not a reality. It isn't going to happen. Fear overtakes me. I have two phobias in life. One is swimming, and one is being on a boat in water. And so, Matthew, it ain't there. No, Pops is not. No, it's not. It's not happening.
Not happening. All right, guys, we're going to turn our attention over to my mom. So we're going to spend the next 10 minutes or so talking about my mom. First things first, Dad. Dara, my sister, shared this photo in our family group chat today.
Where did she find that photo? I've never seen it before.
I haven't seen this photo. And I got to say, Dad,
yeah,
I look just like Mom.
I'm afraid. Well, no, I'm not afraid you do. I think it's a good thing that you do. I think you are so much better off looking just like Mom than you are, looking just like me.
No. You guys are both beautiful. But wow, I saw this photo. It's the first time I've ever seen this photo of my mom. I shared this over on X. I've been sharing my dad's story, which if you're comfortable, Dad, I can read it or you can read it. I'd like to share it because I think I actually, what was that, Dad?
You can share it.
Okay. And you want me to read it? I can read it.
Yeah, I don't know that, I tear up. I teared up just writing the damn thing. So
trust me, I tear up reading it, but I'll try my best. I'm going to read it. And the reason I'm going to read it, Dad, is because I think two things. One is I think it's an incredible tribute to my mom, who I miss dearly. It's 8 years since she passed away. It's 8 years today. It'll be we're like an hour away from when she literally passed away. The other is I think your message in it is so beautiful. And I think it's a message that as I sit here today, rereading it and sharing it with friends, think is a message that everyone should buy into. So I'm super proud to share it. And then the third reason, Dad, is I drew a connection, actually, the most recent time I read through it. I think this is what's going to get me teared up today. I think that's like Mom. Like her being here with us is your message. Like that's her. So I don't know. There's like a weird thing going on in my brain where I feel really connected to it. I feel really connected to Mom because I think she's the one who led you to write this. So, okay, I'm going to read this. We're going to pull the chat off the screen. Okay, life after loss, recalculating. You sound like a GPS, Dad.
That was the thought in my mind that we're on a journey, and when you lose somebody, there's a voice that's going, recalculating.
So yeah, this is Mom. The Mom is in this. All right, life, death, and self-reflection. On Monday, June 30th at 1:30 p.m., I, along with my children, Dara and Zach, will relive that very moment when their mother and my wife, Suzanne Shefska, took her last breath. After a 2.5-year struggle with stage 4 lung cancer, after all the shock, all the hope, all the pain, and all the disappointment, Suzanne exhaled one last time and finally found the peace that she so deserved. While Suzanne found peace, we found heartbreak, sorrow, and a gaping hole in our lives. How in God's name do you fill that hole, or better yet, honor someone's memory? This is a fantastic photo of you guys at your wedding. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Look at the size of that man's glasses.
I mean, those are some big glasses, man.
They were. Yeah. Yeah.
The answer, as it turned out, was for us to become better people by trying to understand who we are and why we are the way we are. That requires looking deep within ourselves to really grasp how we each could be better, more well-rounded individuals. For me, that meant being brutally honest with myself about not always being emotionally available, withholding my love, my trust to those who meant the most to me, Suzanne and the kids. To eventually admit that my personal fears crippled me emotionally, creating trust issues and doubts in the minds of those I loved. If I wouldn't trust the people I loved the most to be honest with them emotionally, then why would they ever trust me? And how finally being honest with myself has allowed me to communicate with Dara and Zach and close personal friends what I am feeling emotionally, because finally I realized that by doing so, it is a sign of strength and not weakness, as I had always thought in the past. It was a great image, Dad. Really, really good image. Taking a hard look at myself.
Yeah.
My kids, to a degree, have done the same. We are all, to some degree or another, working on ourselves. We want to be the best versions of ourselves as a way to honor our mom, Suzanne's memory, Was Suzanne perfect? No, not at all. Like all of us, she had her issues: lack of self confidence, low self esteem, a fear of not fitting in, but her virtues far outweighed her deficiencies. She cared deeply not only about her family and close friends, but also about those who she served, her students. Suzanne was a special education teacher in one of the worst neighborhoods in Baltimore, Maryland, waking every school day at 6 a.m. so that she could help her students, all while carrying with her a portable oxygen concentrator to ensure that she had enough air in her compromised lungs to be able to provide her students with what they needed. She made it a point to call parents when a student went above and beyond and let them know that they could and should be proud of their child. Her determination to make a positive difference in people's lives, even while trying to cope with lung cancer, showed us a strength and resolve that I still admire to this day. So much so that I try to emulate her every day when doing the work that I do at CarEdge, by selflessly giving back to people, sharing my knowledge, and encouraging others to be better educated so as to not ever be taken advantage of in the future. 8 years is a long time when you think about it, but when it's about the loss of a loved one, it is barely a blink of an eye. A moment that lives with you forever, a memory that never fades, and a sorrow that will never really fully leave you. So the question for me became, how do I cope? How do I move forward? How do I honor that person that I lost? In my case, I looked inward, not in an attempt to reinvent myself, but rather to redefine myself, to find a better version of myself, Ray 2.0, if you will. Ray 2.0 is closer to the person I should and could have been, closer to the person that Suzanne always wanted me to be, closer to the person that she needed me to be. I am so much more capable. You're beautiful, Dad. I am so much more capable of empathy and understanding today than I ever have been. Men in general, and me in particular, have always heard things in such a way that I feel as if I have to solve a problem, come up with a solution, and a roadmap to get us there, when in fact, I was really being asked to hear, not to heal. I was being asked to acknowledge, not to solve. I was really being asked to just be there, and I didn't understand that or know how to just be present. All right. I've learned to no longer ask why, but rather what. Wonder who told you that, taught you
Yeah.
that. What is making you feel the way you can feel, as opposed to why are you feeling the way that you feel? What causes you to think a little more deeply than why? It forces a more introspective look at the causes, and perhaps when you better understand the what, it becomes easier to address the why. What communicates a more genuine caring to the person you are asking? It is softer and warmer and more comforting and helping than why. And yes, I wish I could have learned that 60 years ago instead of 2 years ago. Thankfully, I'm still evolving. All right. So will I ever be the person that Suzanne had hoped I would be, and the kids need me to be? My hope is that it's 74, and as I approach the fourth quarter of my life, I do not like how you dictated that you're going to only be 100. I will come closer than ever before to being that person. My success towards that goal, no matter how big or small, will be because I want to honor Suzanne's memory, and at the very least show those who I love that all of us, regardless of age, can change to some degree and find a better path to travel. Suzanne, you're still the glue that holds this family together, and for that I am eternally grateful. May your memory always be a blessing. I love you, dear, and I miss you.
Yes. You had to do that, huh?
Yeah, man, because it's so beautiful.
Well,
I want everyone in the world to read that.
well, the good news is everyone in the world won't. As a matter of fact, probably 99.99999% of the world's population will never encounter that and never read it. So, yeah, but it feels good to be able to write things. Not only WRIT, but RIGHT, to become a better person and the person I wish I should have been.
Yeah, but you know, you're here now, you're living now, you're doing it now. It's so beautiful. And that's where I think for me, like the connection, like mom was a teacher. She taught people. She was always about repairing the world, make the world a better place, help one person. And like to me, reading this when you shared it with me yesterday, I was like, holy shit, holy cow, like that's mom. Like she helped you wake up and realize that you can keep evolving and you can keep keep bettering yourself in new ways. And so, yeah, I just feel so touched today. And you've written these notes for 8 years now, but this is maybe the first year, Dad, where I really wish I had a bigger megaphone. I think everyone should be thinking about becoming the 2.0 version of themselves and looking inward. And you wrote it so beautifully.
Well, thank you. As I said to you yesterday, I don't really think it was one of my better efforts. It might have been one of my more honest efforts, but I don't think it was actually one of my better efforts. But I owe it to your mother to be better than I was, because I should have and could have and wish I had treated her better than I did, because I was so insecure as a human being that I couldn't find the trust level to be able to do that. And so today I exposed myself emotionally to the world when I found it impossible to expose myself emotionally to the woman who meant the most to me in my life. So I don't want to ever live like that again, and I don't want my children to live like that again, and I want to set a better example than I set for them when they were younger. And if that's a virtuous thing, then I guess I'm virtuous. If it's a selfish thing, then I guess I'm selfish. But I just, we all have a lot to give and a lot to learn, and we can't be afraid of either.
So beautiful, so powerful, Dad. And it's also so finite, like so finite. 8 years is forever and nothing at the same time. And you're
Absolutely.
74, that's forever and nothing. And so what's the point of showing up and living without being honest with yourself? And I think it's just so incredible how you've matured over the past 8 years.
My maturity came way too late in life.
For those of you that are interested, my dad does. I don't know why he publishes them to LinkedIn, but he does annually.
Well, why would that be? Because I have nowhere else to post it. I am not.
Maybe I should set you up a little like notes to Suzanne website or something like that. But you can go back and you can read these tributes. Just go to his LinkedIn. It's Ray Shefska, and go to his posts. Been doing it for every year, so yeah. Please. And I love it. I really look forward to personally reading it. And I also, again, just think the message in this year's note is one that cannot go far enough, and everyone should read it. I've been sharing it directly with so many of my friends today, Dad, because I think it's such a powerful message and one that I am so proud of.
I think your mother would be proud of me at this point.
Mom is proud of you. Absolutely. She's proud of both of us. She's proud of all of us, Dara, you, me. Okay, some thoughtful contributions, then we're going to call it a show. Ray, I feel your phobia. Same with me in heights. Back to your swimming phobia. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
From Michael. Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate it. I'm glad you gentlemen shared it with us. God bless.
Thank you.
Hopefully by now, 6 years in, y'all know we're just two guys sitting in front of computers and a camera right now. Like we're just ourselves, for better or worse.
Yep. For better or worse.
All right, y'all. We're back tomorrow. I think we'll talk 4th of July car deals tomorrow, because that seems like a fitting way to follow up today's show.
Yes. We should talk about the Star Spangled Banner, the red, white, and blue, the deals to celebrate America that will happen this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The hot dogs, the hamburgers, the warm soda, and the stale potato chips.
Tune in tomorrow, folks. If you get a chance, please share that message that we read on the show. Dad, I love you. Have a fantastic day. I'm sure we'll be in touch, and we'll see you all back here tomorrow.
Love you too, handsome. Thank you, everybody.